Hello everyone, this is Chinny8888. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use Sit and Go Wizard. Um, Basically, to start with, I'm playing PokerStars here. Sit and Go Wizard supports a broad range of sites, but let's just start off with PokerStars. Um, First off, we find out where our hand histories are saved. This is Z, hand histories for me. Um, so what we can do is we can go open a tournament folder here in Sit and Go Wizard. This is just the main screen, and we can go open, and we've got hand histories, Havoc Lol, which is my PokerStars username. And yeah, if I have any tournaments there, it will be opened up. Um, okay, so that's how you start it all up. And I have these tournaments separated from everything else, just in this folder here, and that's just to refer to if we have anything interesting before the push fold stages that I want to discuss. At the moment, it doesn't seem that there is anything in this tournament. If we can see our stack here, stack size here is 1500, and it's just going down by the blinds each time, which, I mean, if you just look at very briefly look at the cards that I'm given, we can see why it was just we were slowly just being blinded down. Um, I really had nothing really to work with, and once we get to about 10 or 14 big blinds, as said by Poker Strategy, I will go a bit more in depth into these hands and just analyze whether Sit and Go Wizard believes this is a push or a fold. So here we have a very easy situation. A donkey raises to 2 big blinds, or mini raises it, from MP1, and intuitively we know that Queen 3 offsuit is not good enough to make a repush. Sit and Go Wizard gives you a difference in equity between pushing and folding, where the difference is the percentage of the pot, percentage of the total prize pool that you win, or you lose in this case, if you push, as opposed to if you fold. So, I mean, just from here we can see that it becomes very easy to just, at a glance, see how good, see how to see how profitable a move would be in this spot, or how unprofitable. And this is a similar spot. We have a call, and we have 9-4 suited. Okay, 6-2 suited, same idea. Um, it's left to us. Now, what happens here is if we open push for 14 big blinds, Sit and Go Wizard has a model for how wide people are calling us. Of course, this model is not always correct. I mean, I'm not inclined to believe that he's calling us with fours through to aces, as well as hands as bad as Ace-8 offsuit, and hands as bad as King-Jack suited. I don't know, maybe he calls King-Jack suited. People fall in love with their the cards that, you know, they're pretty cards like King-Jack suited. So maybe he is calling with that. But yeah, in any case, even at a glance, we can just tell that this is a minus dollar EV push. All right, so we have 10-7 suited here, also a fold, and King 5 offsuit is also a fold. 7-2 offsuit. Okay, so here we have Ace 9 suited, and we have our first fairly interesting situation. We have someone pushing for 12, for 10 big blinds, and we have him at around 12%. That's he's pushing Ace 9 offsuit, and he's pushing Ace 7 suited, as well as pocket fours. I think that's about right. And we have Ace Hot here, calling for 855 with 9 big blinds, and we have here him down as 8%. This, sorry, 6%. That's just a flat out lie. He's never folding. I don't know. I don't think he's folding sixes here. I don't think he's folding Ace Jack offsuit here, and I doubt he's folding Ace 9 suited here. So we'll increase his range to include these cards. And this is a trick not really a trick, a thing you must do with Sit and Go Wizard, and that is just adjust their ranges to what you think that they will be playing. Because I mean, Sit and Go Wizard even says at its in its disclaimer at the front page that if you don't adjust your opponent's ranges, you will lose a lot of money from employing the strategies from the push folds suggested by Sit and Go Wizard. So okay, here we've adjusted their ranges to what is what I feel is about right for them, and we can see that of course calling ace-9 suited is still very bad, but we should intuitively know that already. 8-6 offsuit, easy fold, and we just have some very standard folds here. Here we have ace-king offsuit, and yep. I don't know why I raised it here. This should be a push, but hey, whatever. Here we have ace-odd here, and he calls under the gun for 150. Sit and Go Wizard has him here as calling with 30% of his range, and then calling if we push, calling our push with 10% of his range. So Sit and Go Wizard believes that with a 10 big blind stack, we have around about a 66% fold equity on him, which is a very, very, very big flat out lie. Okay. So here we have, if we click here, which is the graph, we can see that you know what percentage of times must he call our push for us to make our push unprofitable, and it shows that at about 25%, if he calls us with about 25% of our of his range. Oh, sorry. I see. Yep. If he opens with about if he assuming we hold call 10% constant, he's always calling with the top 10% and never anything worse. We look at how wide he opens, and if he opens 25% or less, then this is a break-even EV push. I don't think he opens nearly 25%. 30% at the moment is, I mean, he's limping in with King 8 offsuit, King 4 suited, Queen Jack offsuit, Queen 9 suited, and pocket 2s, and Jack 10 suited. I just don't think that's the case. But what we can also do is just shift this up, because very often they'll be raising their best hands, and we can do something like, I don't know, 2%, and he limps in with maybe 20% of his range, which is here we go, 3s to jacks, ace 2 suited, king 10 suited, and king queen offsuit. That seems about right. And how often does he call us? Well, once he limps in, he's not going to fold very, very light. He's definitely not going to fold ace 9 offsuit. He's probably not going to fold ace 8 offsuit, and probably not king queen offsuit either. So I'll just drag his range a bit. 12%. 12% is probably a bit too tight still. And 14%. And unfortunately, I can't put in individual hands. But this is about the range. I mean, maybe he's not calling us with ace 4 suited, but he is calling us with king queen offsuit. So this is about right. And very suddenly, we see that once we've optimized their ranges, Sit and Go Wizard tells us to check rather than push. And that's about right. I mean, you can intuitively imagine that to an under the gun limp, Queen 4 offsuit is not good for a push. And here, very standard, very standard. And there's really not much to say except here. Okay, here we have about 6.5 big blinds, and we're under the gun with 8-7 suited. Now, here, if we were a bit shorter, I would make what is referred to as a minus dollar EV push. Our dollar EV here is minus 1.67%, but say our stack was closer to 900, and our difference in equity goes, well, it increases a bit to about 1.25%. But in any case, we have a hand here that is most likely 2 live cards. It very often sucks out the other players, but that's not the main point. The main point is that once the blinds pass us once again, we will have 600 stack, and the blinds will be 100, 200. That will mean that once we're in the button and we push, very often will be called. I mean, it's not something that it's not a spot that you want to be in anyway. You want to preserve your folding equity. So if we had a stack like 900, what you would want to do is you would want to push a slightly wider range. Not too wide, mind you. And I'll just find the hand once again. Okay. So we'll continue. And here we have an easy fold. Here with 5-3 offsuit, I don't think he's calling us this. No, this seems about right. King 8 offsuit is about the worst he'll call us with, and as well as King 4 suited. I actually think he'll call us with a bit tighter than that, closer to about 25, but whatever. We're given an any to a push anyway, already. This is the range of hands that we can push, and obviously you can see our hand here. Similar spot. And here we make the fold. Here, we folded, but our difference in equity here from making a push is about 0.1%, and our required edge is 0.13%. Now, Sit and Go Wizard is very conservative with these edges. I mean, as the shorter stack, I don't feel my edge here is worth 0.13% of the prize pool, but at the same time, I also don't think he's calling us this tight. And just very quickly at a glance, we can see that yeah, it was all pretty standard plays. King Jack suited, we raise, and I mean, just because Sit and Go Wizard says that it's a push, does not mean we always have to push. Sometimes, for example, if we're under the gun with aces and 15 or 20 big blinds, we can make a better play than a push, which would be, in that case, a raise, and then a re-raise over a push, re-raise over a 3-bet, or a caller push. And we can see that we have nothing really to analyze other than the very standard hands. And here we pushed King 4 offsuit. If I recall, we ran into Ace 4 and we failed to improve. But that's a Sit and Go variance. I mean, as you can see, we were pushing very wide, and Sit and Go Wizard pretty much agrees with us in the most part about our pushes, and yet at the same time, we can still very possibly run into better hands, and just a bit of bad luck and we're out of the tournament. Okay, so I will continue on to the next tournament. Right, so what I usually do at the start of during a session review, I usually go through these a lot faster, of course, is I just load up my files and see if there's any hands that I got involved with, or any hands that I should have got involved with, such as here, Ace Queen offsuit. Oh, sorry, Ace King offsuit I should have got involved with. It seems that, seeing as I just won 30 chips, I probably just won the blinds. And Ace Queen offsuit here. I won, how many? 75 chips. So again, that would just be the blinds. Afterwards, there are not so many interesting spots. Again, 9s here. Okay, Ace 9 offsuit on the button. We'll have a look at this. and this is tournament 954. So you see, last 3 digits, 954 here. We can just open it up, and we can see our suits here, ace club and 9 of spades. So if we just go find AC 9S, and we can very quickly skip to our hand. And now here we can see that under the gun limped, and we have all this action here, and it folds around to us, and we check, of course, because in actuality it's something like 2 to 20 from before, and 2 to 13 or so, I don't know. And the flop gives us a very nice ace 5 king with 2 clubs board. And because there is a flush draw out there, I check raise to 300. The pot at the time was 250, and he bet 100. So check raising 3 times his bet to 300, and he called us. On the turn, we bet half pot at 450, and he raises us to 840. At this point in time, we really can't fold. Most of our stack is in it, and I call the other 390. River comes a 6, giving us 2 pair and counterfeiting his 2 pair. That's slightly unlucky that he got sucked out like that, but then at the same time his limp under the gun was disgusting. It was very, very bad, and he was very lucky to flop so big, especially against my top pair. So let's continue. We can see that we doubled up there, and nines we can just see at a glance that blinds are 50, 100, and I went up 150 in chips. I must have won the blinds. Here again, I think I just, yep, we get a walk here. So we go up to 75 in chips. Alright, here, just blinds again. I think, yes, 225 chips, it's just blinds. And here we have Jack 10 suited. I think I mentioned that at the time I just raised the previous hand, and one of the players here is a decent big stack here, so he will he'll call us far too often to make this a very profitable steal raise, so I just opted for a fold. Steal raising here is okay as well though. Sit and go wizard can't really analyze spots where you shouldn't be pushing or folding, so yeah, whatever. It's just something that carries over from charts and from experience. And we have nothing really interesting. Just a great deal of folds, and I think we win the blinds here with our raise. And yep, and we push this, which is a very standard push. Right, so some of you may be thinking, how often does 2 hip gotta go have to call in order for us to make in order for this push to be made not plus EV? So we can have a look at the sit and go wizard charts here, and we can see that if he calls around 45% of his hands, this push starts being break-even EV, and if he starts calling more than that, we start losing money on this. This is the amount of percentage of the prize pool we gain if we push, and his calling range is this much. The percentage of the prize pool we gain on average with our Jack 6 offsuit push, and yep, we start losing past a certain point. I don't mind the edge SnG wizard gives us here. It's about 0.06% of the prize pool, and I think that's about right. You definitely don't want edges to start, you definitely don't want required edges to start getting too high, because it's just unrealistic. If the blinds are very large, your edge is not very large. So yep. Okay. And we can also swap positions, and we can, you know, look at, hey, if I had ace king offsuit here and havoc low in front of me pushed, what should I do? And obviously this is a push, but say we had a hand like jack 10 suited and he pushed that. How often would he have to push in order for us to make this call profitable? And it seems, oh, if he pushes, you know, if I've got jack 10 suited in the big blind in this exact spot and he pushed around you know, around 65% of his hands here, then I can start calling him. And that way you can very quickly just figure out you know, whether the call you made here was good or whether it was bad. For those who don't know, I would actually push 100% here, so it's actually a profitable call for 2 hip gotta go. If he had jack 10 suited, he didn't, or at least I don't know what he had because he folded. So yeah. So yeah, very quickly at a glance, we can see on the left the moves that were a success, as Sit and Go Wizard puts them, or that were profitable, and the moves that weren't. And yeah, this is just based on the standard models that Sit and Go Wizard gives, which actually are not good. So even if they are a success, you could very well have a wrong push, and even if they are an error, you could possibly have a correct push. So let's just continue. I think ace queen suited. I pushed and someone called me and busted out. It was probably 2 hip gotta go. And we can see that it was. Right, so here we have small blind completing for 50% and calling for 20%. If you just think about that, that's probably not the truth. He's probably raising his top 2% of hands, at least. And he is probably calling a bit more, and at least he's opening a bit less. So very quickly we can tell that, you know, we shouldn't really just go around pushing any 2 cards into small blind. Although I think I do here anyway. Or no, we played. I checked, and we played post flop, and I flopped bottom pair, called a bet from him, and won another bet from him on the turn. I don't think I got to see what hand he had, but yes, he was pretty crippled. And obviously here we have a lot of folds, and yep, of course, Sit and Go Wizard doesn't tell us what happens if we did push and we ran into a better hand or something. And as you can see, my stack just steadily rose with some post-flop play and quite a bit of raising and not that many pushes. Here we double up with ace 10 offsuit, and right, okay, so here we have ace 3 offsuit, and it says Roy is raising 25% of hands. Because, I mean, Roy, as I know, is a multi-tabling player. He is raising a lot more than that, and he's never folding, of course. So, in fact, his range is something like 60-60. We should actually just put him on push, because he's never folding, and we can just see, okay, if he is raising more than 35% or so of hands, we can make a push with ace 3 offsuit. And indeed, you know, he probably is. So, yep, it's definitely an okay push. As it turns out, he actually had ace 3 offsuit in this hand as well, and won with a flush. But hey, that happens. Another thing to note is that Sit and Go Wizard gives you way unreasonable ranges for how often they push, but even so, we can see that 10-3 suited, regardless of what his range is always a plus dollar EV push. We can see that it never crosses the 0 line in this spot. So, yep, don't fold 10-3 suited. Suited cards are very good. Again, Jack 6 offsuit. I folded just for deception. I think most of the time it is a plus dollar EV push, but we don't gain that much in it compared to folding. So whatever, it's okay to fold. And yep, nothing really particularly interesting. SnG Wizard of course sucks with ranges. So I mean he's not calling 16% here, especially given history. He's probably calling I don't know, probably calling about 50% here. So yep, it's just if you have errors and heads up, I really wouldn't worry about them too much, because Sit and Go Wizard is probably worse than you in judging these situations. So yep, just ignore them. So we will continue. And here we have a very standard game. I think I lost a couple to blinds, and yep, here we have 4s on the button, and we win the blinds. And we don't really have anything interesting to play with. And we push ace-10 offsuit on the big blind after many calls. This is definitely a plus dollar EV push, because once again he is absolutely, I mean he could be limping in with aces. He's probably not limping in this wide either. It's probably about 20% there, and he's not folding ace queen etc. to our push. So it's about 20% for a call here. Yep, in fact I'll probably say a bit more, like 25%, and he's probably calling with these types of hands maybe a bit more, so 9%. This is 9%, and he's limping behind with quite a few hands, except with limp behinds they usually aren't limping behind with their best hands. So he is probably always raising, after a limper. He's probably always raising, yeah, ace queen suited, ace king, 10s to aces. In fact, I'll keep going with that. He's probably raising ace queen offsuit as well. Yep, there we go. And limping behind with the other couple. So yep, same as this guy. 5 to 40, and calling us with 5 to 9. So once we play around with it a bit and we decrease our edge a bit, whatever, even at the standard edge we can see that it's a very plus dollar EV push. So if we then continue, nothing really to play with. Here I think we won a free play, and here we have ace-2 suited, very easy push, and Sit and Go Wizard gives us a 10% for his call range. But we can have a look at his call range, and we can see that if we have ace-2 suited and he calls us with any percentage of hands, it's a very easy push. It's always plus dollar EV. If it's always above this line here, this 0.0 line, you can tell that it's probably a good push. And if we just continue, here we have ace king, and obviously someone called us, and we double up. King 4 offsuit. Okay, here is interesting. We have a situation where 3 people fold to us in the button, and we have effectively around 9.5 big blinds with a pretty average hand. If we have a look at the graph, If Lotus McFly, who is the small blind, calls us with more than 25% of hands, that starts becoming minus dollar EV. So I think to these pushes, the small blind is calling about that much here, but with the big blind, we can very quickly ascertain that once he starts calling us with beyond 25% here, it starts becoming a minus dollar EV push. And of course, I also want to give myself a slightly larger edge here because I'm one of the big stacks and we're just approaching the bubble. So I think I can win a lot of pots without showdown, and I really don't need to gamble with hands like King 4 offsuit for a push. And so I folded. But yes, we can see that yep, at around 25%, this push becomes minus dollar EV. And I think he's calling us at least that wide. And I'll just continue with this. Nothing really happens. We raise ace jack offsuit. I think we win a continuation bet from someone. Sorry, we win. Yep, we win the pot after taking it down with a continuation bet, and nothing really happens. We push ace 10 suited, which is a very standard push here. And once again, we can see that regardless of what his call range is, it's always plus dollar EV. And yep, okay. So first wrong one here. 7-5 suited, and it tells us to push this, but these are obviously very wrong. He's a regular, so he's calling us very loose. 40% is about right, and hooch here is probably 14% because he's so 4s plus, ace 8 offsuit plus, and ace 4 suited plus. These are all just intuition things. I mean, you eventually get to know them yourself after a while, and basically you'll judge that as you approach the late stages, these donkeys will call you a bit tighter, and these regulars will call you a bit lighter, and you'll adjust accordingly. So, I mean, where I would leave the donkeys range at about 14%, I'll put the regular at about 40% because, or maybe a bit loose, maybe a bit tighter than that, but yeah, about 30%. And he's probably calling us with any ace, king 4, maybe not king 4 suited, but yeah, any ace, queen 9 suited, queen jack offsuit, and any pocket pair. Pretty standard in this spot, so we have to fold hands like 7-5 suited. And let's continue. 9-8 suited, again on the button. Yep, I'm not going to push that. In fact, because I've been pushing quite a few hands, he's probably calling us a bit wider, and he's definitely calling us a bit wider. It's just spewing chips if you push too wide on the button when you don't need to, at least so I imagine. And we pushed queen 10 offsuit, and yep, our very last hand we pushed king 5 offsuit, and yep, I think we won. Again, these are just wrong ranges. We can see where it becomes. Okay, so basically, if we have a raise to I don't know 3,500, and as we can see, he has 290 behind. He's effectively just pushing. He's putting us to a push fold decision. So what I do is I just change it to a push, and then I look at the graph. It makes it easier, and we can see that as he pushes about 45%, we can profitably call with king 5 offsuit. And I mean, he's short here. He's probably pushing a bit wider than that. I mean, when they're pushing with hands like I don't know, 9-8 suited, 9-8 offsuit, 7-6 offsuit, 8-7, these sorts of hands, you just know that on average, your hand is going to be better with a king, and you can call. So yep, I think we won that tournament. We'll just continue. Here we lose a pretty big pot with ace queen suited. We have 7e. We raise to 70, and this is 977. And we have ace AS QS. Or QSAS. PokerStars just randomly does it, so you know, if it doesn't work, just try the other way around. So we raised to 270, and a short stack re-raises us to 260, and of course I call. He has a7 offsuit and he sucks out, which is just unfortunate. I mean, we got it in good, and that's what counts. Nothing really interesting happens for a while, and then we have 4s in the small blind, and someone under the gun raises, and I call for set value. I miss my set, and we're down another 100 chips. That's no problem. And we don't really have anything to play with. Right, so here I pushed kings, and probably won against a significantly worse hand, and push jack 8 offsuit. Again, we can have a look at how often he calls us for this to be a -$ EV push, and considering Ralpho is not a regular, he has to call us with about 25% of hands for us to make this a non+ $EV push. And look at this, 25% of hands is this. He has to call us with king 10 offsuit, he has to call us with any ace, which is definitely a false thing with these stacks. He's got 10 big blinds, and he has to call us with 2s for us to make this an unprofitable push, and that's just not the truth. So let's just continue, and nothing really interesting happens. We win a lot of chips from just raising and winning it on the continuation bet, and we have 5-2 offsuit. Here, because I've already pushed into his big blind. I think, yep. I mean, he's probably, yeah. We can push this. It's definitely okay to push this, but yeah. If he calls us with about 25%, becomes a break-even EV push. And if he calls us with more, we can't push it. So I mean, we have so far from SnG Wizard, we can find out that we've made probably one mistake out of this set, and the rest looks pretty standard. We have we win and lose a bit from blinds, and yeah, we end up pushing ace-9 offsuit on the button, which is incredibly standard. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned how to use SnG Wizard, the best, for analyzing your games very, very quickly. And yeah, thank you.